Motegi. Welcome back to Ferrari Challenge Japan. We're about to go racing with the Trofeo Pirelli AM and Copa Shell divisions, and there has been some light rainfall over the circuit within the last 10 minutes or so. You can see that glistening on the track surface. I understand that a few cars, but not all cars, have switched over to wet tires, so we could be looking at a little bit of a mixed bag here in terms of what people go with on the tire choice. This could be a head scratcher of a race for those on the pit walls and those in the cockpits. They've not got many minutes left to make that decision. You can see slicks there on Motegi Isosaki's car. Now we're going to get a look here at Isosaki off the circuit. Isosaki got pole position for this race. He was top of qualifying 2 earlier, and the conditions are such that even on the warm-up lap there, he was struggling. Motegi, one of the most experienced drivers on the grid. And yet, even he, certainly not infallible in conditions this tricky. The formation lap begins in 7.5 minutes. I think that means we've got less than 5 minutes now for them to make the decision to get the cars onto the correct tyre. Motegi giving the thumbs up. Will he remain on slicks? If it doesn't rain any harder or any more than it has, you could argue that it'll dry out in time for the slicks to be a good choice. But in the early laps, it probably is better suited to a car or to a tyre with tread. This is certainly going to be a tricky situation. The top 2 we can see are on slicks. It looks like Maezawa has switched from 3rd position onto wets. Yes, he has. So the winner from yesterday's race has decided that it is a step 2 wet here and has elected to bolt on the wet tyres. Will anyone else follow suit? I've heard that there are multiple drivers with a wet tyre. This could be a very interesting day. As I alluded to yesterday, it was a victory for Yusaku Maezawa on his return to the series. He, of course, raced with us in 2024. He's moved into the world of GT3 racing over the last couple of seasons, but he's come back to try out the Ferrari 296 Challenge and take on the Ferrari Challenge Japan grid. Slicks remaining on the car on the front row alongside Motegi Isosaki, and that car belonging to Kenbo, who was searingly competitive yesterday. Is that slicks coming off Kenbo's car? Yes. Kenbo deciding that it is wet o'clock as well. It was perfect conditions earlier on in qualifying. We saw a 1:49.258 out of this man, Motegi Isosaki, and it looks like he too is electing for the wet tyres. It seems as though just about everybody is making that call. Looking at the surface down there on the grid, I'm not convinced it's going to be dry in time for this race, or in time for slicks to really be the choice. The rainfall looks like it's been significant enough to me that slicks are not the way forward. I've had it confirmed that we're going to do 2 formation laps here, since this is the first time the drivers have taken on a wet circuit all weekend. So they'll get an extra formation lap before the 30 minutes plus 1 lap of racing begins in earnest. sometimes the clock does start ticking after that first formation lap, and I think that will be the case. So it will slightly reduce the green flag distance. There is the 83 of Yusaku Maezawa, yesterday's race winner, his return to Ferrari Challenge, and indeed his first time racing the 296 Challenge car. And we're going to get a look now at qualifying earlier on in the day. Yusaku Maezawa leading them out, the race winner from earlier in the weekend on Saturday. Motohiko Isesaki, though, looked to be a step further forward today. The Corner Shiba number 55, his distinct green and red livery. He and Maezawa were following each other around the Motegi Mobility Resort for much of this race, or much of this qualifying session, I should say. He did make it look a bit like a race, though. Maezawa set a competitive time with a 1:49.680, the first driver in the session to go sub 150. But Kembo would get a 1:49.358 out of the number 70 car. Enough for the front row of the grid, but Motohiko Isesaki meant business. He found a 1:49.258, and that would be pole position. There has been one grid drop, which is the number 28 car, Motohiro Katani. He will be starting 5 places further down in this race than he would have done otherwise, courtesy of a car change. So he's on row 6 of the grid in 11th position. He would have been starting in the top half dozen. Of course, if you recall, the race ended yesterday courtesy of a red flag, Motohiro Katani having a big accident on the run down to turn 3. And while he was A-OK, the car was not. I imagine the chassis is probably repairable, but just not repairable on site, so they've shifted him into a spare car. Row 3 of the grid that we see there, Cold Max and Yasutaka Shirasaki. Shirasaki on the inside line, Yamatatsu and Akihiro Suzuki on row 4. Now, just trying to pay attention to these sidewalls to see if anyone is staying on the slicks. I don't think I've seen any slick shod cars. Is Katani still on slicks? It looked to me like the 28 might be, and it possibly is the case for Phil Kim as well. The 193 definitely has slicks on it. So Liang Chen-yu and also Yukihisa Otsuki at the back of the grid. They look like they've got slicks still on the car, so it is a bit of a split between them. We get a look at the 14 corners of this circuit. A good bit of elevation change in the middle sector. A lot of tight corners following long straights, which means there are plentiful overtaking opportunities. Keep an eye on that run to turn 11. That's where people really like to try and make a move after a good run out of turn 10. Track temperature is only at 26 degrees. That's the lowest that has been all weekend. The air temp, though, at 23. So fractionally warmer than it was this time yesterday. Yesterday, during the first race was for Copa Shell yesterday, or Copa Shell AM, I should say. And we saw that we saw the temperatures dip below 20 for that race, and then got as high as 25 later in the afternoon. But it's a warmer day. It's also just a wetter day. And these drivers have a challenge ahead of them. I'm always one, personally, from the back seat, race strategist seat, to go with the bold choice. Looking at the conditions out there on the circuit, I don't know that slicks are going to be any good for quite some time. Motegi Isosaki, Kenbo on the front row of the grid. Row 2 of the grid is going to be Yusaku Maezawa with Kid alongside. So a Trofeo Pirelli driver in red and a Pirelli AM driver in white on each of the first 2 rows. And on the third row with Yasutaka Shirasaki and Cold Max on row 3. Yamatatsu, row 4. He's alongside Akihiro Suzuki on that row of the grid. 9th and 10th place, Zed Falcon in 9th. Yi Hung Tun, yesterday's Copa Shell winner. He once again starts on the Copa Shell pole in 10th place. Motohiro Katani and Naorayu in 11th and 12th position. 13th and 14th, Phil Kim alongside Katsuya Hirata. Row 8 of the grid, Liang Chenyu and Alex Fox. And just the one car starting from 17th, and that is Yukihisa Otsuki. Of course, the Copa Shell AM grid, which is usually our most populous class, they have a separate race coming up after this. So there are 2 races to bring you this afternoon from the Mobility Resort Motegi, formerly known, of course, as the Twin Ring Motegi. We're over halfway into the championship at this stage. And Motohiko Isosaki, currently the leader of the Trofeo Pirelli standings, but it's a narrow margin, especially with those that have been upgraded from Trofeo Pirelli AM to Trofeo Pirelli. Drivers like Yamatatsu, like Yasutaka Shirasaki. Trofeo Pirelli has gotten a lot more competitive. There have been a few drivers that have been bumped up since last time. We'll talk about them a bit later on. We're about to start this race under safety car, but we're going to have 2 formation laps. So let's see if the clock starts ticking this time. I'm not sure the drivers have been made fully aware of 2 formation laps. They think they're going racing. It seems they've got 2x2 formation as they come through the final corners. Hopefully everyone is aware. I'm not convinced that everyone has caught that memo, but the safety car is still out there. They thought there was a race start coming, I reckon. But one more lap to get themselves to grips with what the surface is doing. Now, has anyone pitted, I wonder? Because there did seem to be a few still on slicks, and that is going to be treacherous. Now, the safety car is out. The clock is also ticking, so we are now ebbing away at the race distance. 29 minutes and ticking down. So the 30 minutes plus 1 lap of this race distance has begun in earnest. The drivers preparing here for the start of the race. Here in Ferrari Challenge Japan with 4 different classes. There's always a lot of intrigue up and down the field. We'll do our best to keep you up with everything as it pertains to the separate classes, of course. That battle at the front of the order, though, always important. Of course, you score points in this category within your class. So if you overtake a Trofeo Pirelli AM driver as someone in Copa Shell, it doesn't actually benefit your point score at all. But certainly at the front, where we're seeing Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers who strictly should be categorized or are being categorized as a step behind the Trofeo Pirelli drivers, when they get to fight with the big guns, the drivers that are considered the fastest in the series, they take that with both hands. We have seen that time and time again. So then the cars head down towards turn 11 of this Mobility Resort Motegi layout. We're about to go racing. Let's see who comes out on top in tricky conditions here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. And the safety car once again staying out there. So an extra formation lap on the cards. That has just been called at the last minute. Again, everyone was trying to go 2 by 2. We keep waiting for a race start, but they want to make sure everybody is up and away. And I've had confirmation from the paddock, from Filippo, from the Ferrari organisation, that we are going to go back to racing, or we are going to go into racing at the end of this lap. So they've decided to give them one more lap just to make sure there's heat in the tyres, just to make sure everyone is familiar with the conditions before we go racing. So 3 formation laps, and then we're going to go racing, and this is the third of them. Alluded to our point standings, and coming into this weekend, Motegi Suzuki had a marginal advantage in the main Trofeo Pirelli category, 48 points, up against Akihiro Suzuki's 44.5. But the complication with drivers like Yamatatsu, like Yasutaka Shirasaki coming into Trofeo Pirelli, being upgraded from Trofeo Pirelli AM, they keep their points that they earned in Trofeo Pirelli AM. So that means that Yamatatsu came into this weekend just a point back from Isosaki. He was on 47. Isosaki yesterday extending his points lead slightly, with Yusaku Maezawa winning the race, and him coming across the line second among the Trofeo Pirelli drivers. He marginally extended his advantage over Yamatatsu out to 3 points, but Yamatatsu has gone from dominating Trofeo Pirelli AM, along with Yasutaka Shirasaki, to now fighting for the biggest of the prizes, the overall Trofeo Pirelli standings, and that is a really compelling situation. Someone like Akihiro Suzuki definitely wants to see this race go well. Of course, yesterday we had a red flag around halfway through the race, and he came into the pits like everybody else, as you're supposed to do under red flag procedure, but for whatever reason, he couldn't get himself back out onto the circuit. The car simply wouldn't leave the pit lane, and therefore he was a non-score in the race on Saturday. So having dropped a race away from his point standings, it's now imperative that he climbs up through the order and tries to beat those contenders like Isosaki, like Yamatatsu, like Shirasaki. Maezawa, I don't know how much of a campaign he's looking to do, but given we're 3 rounds into the season, I don't think he's going to be a contender even if he does do the rest of the year. Potentially, though, if he wins a second race in a row, there's nothing stopping him. Maybe he'd like to fight for the title. We're about to go green. 2 by 2 formation here at Motegi. The cars scythe through the final couple of bends. Isosaki and Kenbo at the front of the field. The red lights are on. As soon as they go off, we are racing. And they go off. We are underway. Isosaki not with a good start at all. Isosaki loses out in a major way. Kenbo, therefore, is your race leader. Kenbo, the Trofeo Pirelli AM driver, at the front. The Pirelli AM drivers with the white boards on their windscreen. The red windscreen banners for Trofeo Pirelli and Copa Shell's yellow windscreen banners. And it's Kembo that leads the way overall. Akihiro Suzuki with a good start. He's fighting for 4th place with Cold Max, but Issa Saki is dropping through the field like a stone. Now, we saw him being switched on to wet tyres. Did they switch it back to slicks, I wonder? Because the way he's fallen through the field, well outside the top 10, suggests to me that he's struggling for grip. The other drivers that have fallen back, drivers like Liang Chenyu, Phil Kim, Otsuki, are also drivers that I believe we saw on slicks. And I think it's the wet tyre drivers that have moved on up the field. It's not the first time today as, oh, what a dive there from the 103. That's Tan, the Copa Shell driver, the 103. That was for 2nd in Copa Shell. He was trying to get past Alex Fox there. Kenbo in the lead. Maezawa in 2nd place. Shirasaki, Suzuki, Cold Max, your top 5. Shirasaki pressured here by Suzuki, who's moved up from 8th on the grid to P4 already. He's had an ideal first lap aboard the number 17 Auto Speciale car. Kenbo for now retains the lead, but you can see that Maezawa is looking quite lively behind. Kenbo with a different approach to his braking there in turn 1. I think he wanted to get the car fully stopped for the corner before turning in. Maezawa, meanwhile, was doing a bit more steering and braking at the same time, so I think a bit more confidence possibly with Maezawa when it comes to getting the car stopped in these conditions. Oh, but the 51 is off the circuit. That is Kidd. Kidd is off the circuit. The yellow flags are out, as we can see. Safety car is out. And that will halt things, although I'm not sure that Yasutaka, Shirasaki and Suzuki have got the message that the safety car is out. They were side by side, they are side by side. And Cold Max is also looking like he's still trying for a racing maneuver. Hopefully everyone gets the memo. Kenbo, Maezawa, Shirasaki, Suzuki and Cold Max will be your order, even if there was an overtake a little after. Falcon, Katani, Naorayu, Tan, Alex Fox and Isasaki were your top dozen. Isasaki, I think, is on the slick tyres, and I wonder if anyone who is on the slicks makes the call to come off them now. Getting a replay here of the race start, and you could just see Isasaki, compared to those around him, with no traction, no acceleration. Was 5th place before they even got to the apex at turn 1. Kidd also was another driver that really fell through the field. I think he was on slicks, and obviously his car is the one beached into the gravel now at turn 1. So I think rather definitively we've seen evidence that, for now at least, the wet tyres are the way to go. And honestly, with 18.5 minutes left to run, I'm not convinced that they're going to see it go the way of the slickshod drivers. If I was on wets, I think maybe I'd get on those slicks now that we're in safety car and it won't cost so much time. Once again, the unique recovery vehicles that we have here at Motegi take a little bit of the spotlight, and the recovery crews, as efficient as ever, will make their way to the car, get it towed away, And I suspect that at the most we'll do 2 complete laps under safety car, so this should be a fairly brief pause. Is it a blessing or a curse for Kenbo at the front of the field? I don't think really it is either. He hadn't built himself enough of a gap over Maezawa to really lose out courtesy of the safety car. Maybe it's just an opportunity to regroup, if anything. This is a replay of the big dive on Alex Fox from Yihang Tun, and Tun got through, but it was a little bit physical. The car clad with the shark, and he's certainly used to being the hunted this season. Now he is the hunter. He's got some work to do. He's got Naorayu for Copa Shell. Just ahead of him, the Copa Shell leader, Naorayu, so he's up to second in class. Of course, he was the Copa Shell pole sitter, so he lost some time in the first lap of the race. I think potentially got caught out with some of the other cars dropping through the field as they did. It's often easy to stifle someone else's momentum unintentionally if you're falling through the field like a stone with the wrong tyres on your car. And I think potentially Tun was one of those with the problem, or with a small problem, having to miss someone with a bit less grip. Now, no one's come into the pits as best I can tell. Will anyone elect to this time? Again, I just don't think that the temperatures or the conditions are enough that this surface is going to be wanting dry tyres before the end of the race distance. You can see that consistent sheen across the circuit. But again, everyone staying with their convictions, no one electing to make a pit stop. And with the Kid car already placed behind the barrier, we saw that that car got pulled away. I think that this should be our final lap under safety car before we go get back to green flag. We'll see if we get a bulletin to that end. Just getting a look there at Kidd exiting his car. Not the weekend he's wanted. He's had some rough days so far this season in the Ferrari Challenge Japan, but we know that Kidd is always competitive, and I'm sure he'll come back with some good results before the end of the season, but the Trofeo Pirelli AM title might be a bridge too far for him this year. Safety car in this lap, I'm being told. And that's now been reflected on the timing screens as well. So we are going to go back to green flag conditions on this occasion. Of course, single file restart. So Kenbo doesn't have to worry about defending from Maezawa immediately. There's always that argument made that Kenbo, being the overall leader, and with the next Trofeo Pirelli AM car being in 5th place, he doesn't really need to fight Maezawa and Shirasaki. But I assure you, that thought rarely, if ever, goes through the mind of a racing driver. His focus is purely on keeping Maezawa behind and being the first one to see the checkered flag in about 15 minutes' time. The Ferrari 849 Testarossa safety car has driven away from the pack, and that leaves things firmly in charge of Kenbo. Now he's really taking a slow run down the back straight towards turn 11, and that's going to cool off a lot of people's tyres. He's weaving a bit to try and keep some temperature in his, but I don't know how effective it's going to be at that kind of speed. We're going to go back to racing. with Kenbo in the lead. It's his first time leading a Ferrari Challenge Japan race overall. Power goes down as they head under the bridge. We're back to racing speeds. Yusaku Maezawa won't be able to make a move until turn 1, or at least until they've crossed the start-finish line. Kenbo powers out of the final corner in his Corners Shiba entry. Maezawa second, Shirasaki, of course, remaining in third, but Akihiro Suzuki not far away at all. Zed Falcon and Motohiro Katani fighting it out in 7th overall. That's also for the 3rd position in the Trofeo Pirelli AM standings. Maezawa having a look to the inside as they run towards turn 3. He's not close enough to get alongside Kenbo. But a statement of intent there in the body language of that car. And again, looking to the inside at turn 5, and this time he is close enough. Oh, Kenbo tried to turn in. Maezawa was there, and the move has been made. Yusaku Maezawa for a 2nd day in a row leading in Ferrari Challenge Japan. We saw him take some of his formative steps as a racing driver in this series a couple of years ago in the final full season for the Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. He's come back with experience from GT3 racing, also in Ferrari machines in the 296 GT3. And he really has taken significant step forward as a driver. And while this 296 challenge is new to him, he's driving it wonderfully. Akihiro Suzuki very deep on the brakes at the hairpin. He just about got it stopped in time, and he's actually given himself a decent run here up against Yasutaka Shirasaki. I'm not convinced that was the design of running that deep into the previous corner, but he draws nearly alongside. Shirasaki goes defensive. Akihiro Suzuki around the outside. That's useful sometimes in the wet, but getting onto that painted curb, suboptimal, and Shirasaki holds on. Oh, Shirasaki actually had to go wide there. I think he was just making sure he didn't collide with Suzuki at the pinch point at the apex. Suzuki gets a good run. Shirasaki was on the curb a little bit more. That will have cost him a little bit of momentum in these tricky conditions. Suzuki on his inside. Can Shirasaki make the outside line work for him? The answer appears to be no, because Coldmax has a look as well. Suzuki then up to 3rd place. Shirasaki down to P4. He's now under threat from former Pirelli AM rival Coldmax. Coldmax, who of course won a race overall last time out at Okayama in conditions similar to these. Coldmax always a driver that pushes to his limit. Well, right now, he runs 2nd in class and 5th overall. He'd like himself an overall podium, and if in the process he can try and challenge Kenbo, that would be all the better. Further back in the field, we have had a change in favour of Tun in the 103. So Yihang Tun, the Malaysian racer, is the leader now in Copa Shell, 9th overall. That move has been made. So now Orayu down to 2nd in class. Alex Fox remaining in P11. And just to illustrate how hard it is for those on slicks, Iso Saki is almost 10 seconds behind Alex Fox. 11th to 12th place. I think you can tell who is on wets and who is on slicks based on which side of Motohiko Isosaki they're on. Isosaki is leading the slick tyre contingent. And this is not going to be a good points day for our championship leader. He did a similar roll of the dice at Okayama and ended up switching on to the wets eventually. Maezawa, Kenbo, Suzuki, Shirasaki, your top 4 ahead of Coldmax. And then Yamatatsu in P6, but for a 2nd lap in a row, Akihiro Suzuki is looking like the danger man. He's now caught up Kenbo. Is he setting the fastest laps out on track? Yes, he is. And here he goes up against Kembo. Made that look easy as long as he gets the run out of the corner. Yes, he does. The position is his. And if I'm Yusaku Maezawa, seeing the gold in the mirror from Akihiro Suzuki is a point of concern. He was a couple of tenths quicker than Maezawa on the previous laps, and no, that's not a huge amount of time, but now that he's in clear air and not having to make any overtakes until he arrives at Maezawa's bumper, I think Maezawa is going to be hard-pressed to keep the 17 behind. He's going to have to work hard for this win. Akihiro Suzuki, another one of those drivers on the grid who is so richly experienced. Has a good amount of seat time now in the Ferrari 296 Challenge car, but has over 2 decades of racing experience. Over the years, he raced Ferraris, he raced other marques as well. He competed in the top class of Super GT, the GT 500 class, going back to the late 2000s. He finished second on 3 occasions in the 2025 season, even though he missed a couple of rounds. And of course, he started the year with a double win at Suzuka. Okayama, the second round of the season, didn't go quite so well. He had a DNF and a 4th place, but the 4th place was actually enough for him to be the first Pirelli car home. So he got a Trofeo Pirelli win. Race 2 at Okayama. He's got 3 wins credited to him this season. It was that DNF that was the costly thing so far this year. Of course, he had another DNF yesterday, so a win would be the perfect way to try and salvage a championship bid going into the final 2 events, the final 4 races of the season. Things are getting closer for third as well. Kenbo with Shirasaki between himself and Coldmax. Coldmax, who's looking for an overall podium and the Trofeo Pirelli lead. And Isosaki is finally switching to the wets, but too little, too late. They did switch the car to the wets on the grid at one point. We saw that happening. At the last moment, he must have elected to put it on slicks, and unfortunately it's not paid off. He's going to do well to even stay on the lead lap, unfortunately, Motohiko Isosaki. Akihiro Suzuki to the inside of Maezawa. He's already right there with him. I thought we'd see the last couple of laps, maybe. Suzuki on the back of Maezawa. It's already happening. And in fact, here comes the move. Possibly Suzuki overlapping with Maezawa as they come across the start-finish line. He's got the inside line of the white and red car. And Akihiro Suzuki passes Maezawa. It's the race lead for the man who started from 8th. This has been stellar wet weather driving from Akihiro Suzuki. Real confidence evident in the car's body language and in the performance that we're seeing. He leads the race with 4 minutes plus 1 lap left on the clock. He overtook the man who spent 12 days on the International Space Station. And yet today, it's Akihiro Suzuki who looks like he's on another planet. Getting a look back here. We're trying to get a look back at that move, but we'll come back to that. Is that Coldmax? No, that's a little further back. I think that's Zed Falcon and Kurtani that we just saw fighting it out for 7th and 8th place. That, of course, is an important battle as well, since that's 3rd place in Trofeo Pirelli AM. But Coldmax is right there behind Yasutaka Shirasaki. So again, that's a 4th position, and getting past Shirasaki won't do him any direct favours in the Trofeo Pirelli AM standings, but if he can get to Kenbo, the white car with the red wheels on the rear axle, that would be a move for the Pirelli AM win, but Coldmax has to find his way around Shirasaki first. I think potentially it has started to drop with rain again just slightly, which may have been what triggered Isosaki's eventual shift onto the wets. It does look marginally wetter out there than it did a few laps ago in my mind. You can see the wipers going on the cars. Here's a replay of that overtake for the race lead. He got a great run out of the final corner. That was really where the move was made, just on the exit of the last turn. And by the time he got to turn one, he had a good chunk of car ahead of Maezawa. His last lap, a 1:58.062. He's the only driver in the 58s. He's one of only two drivers in the 59s. Or at least under 2 minutes, I should say. So Suzuki, a step and a half clear of the field right now. We rejoin the battle between Zed Falcon and Katani for third in Pirelli AM. Katani having a look. Of course, this is a new car to him. He's in a spare for today after the big crash yesterday. And of course, all of these cars are prepared the exact same way. They're spec, but every car has nuances. No amount of control can alter the fact that sometimes cars just feel a little bit different. But Katani is very used to this one already, and he's using it to try and go to the inside for third place. He hasn't succeeded at doing so yet. Third in Trofeo Pirelli AM, 7th overall under contest. And Yasutaka Shirasaki has gotten past Ken Bo. So Shirasaki up to third overall, and Kembo has now been placed potentially into the clutches of Coldmax. The race leader has just crossed the line. We will have 2 more laps of racing here. Shirasaki found the inside line at turn 10 and then got the power down nicely. Kembo was slightly on the curb, and I think that either himself or the traction control system will have slightly scrubbed off some traction and some torque as a result of that. Oh, and that's a big move from Motohiro Katani at the first corner. Zed Falcon holds on, though. I think both parties did very well there to stop that from being a rather large incident. Katani then wiggling on the brakes at turn 3. He's pushing hard here. It's worth noting that we've had another change in Copa Shell as well. Nato Ryu has taken the Copa Shell lead. You see him in the back of shot there in 9th overall. Yihang Tun has fallen down to 11th overall and 3rd in class behind Alex Fox. So I think Tun may have had a moment somewhere out there on the circuit. Although his best lap is only a 2:03, so I think he has just started dropping back potentially. Everyone else is improving. His last lap was a 2:06. So yes, there was a error on the previous lap for Yihang Tun that has possibly cost him a little bit of time, although he was already down the field. So Yihang Tun not liking these conditions. Akihiro Suzuki arrives on the back of Motohiko Isosaki, and well, Isosaki would have liked to see Suzuki in the mirrors during this race, but perhaps not in these circumstances. We're going to have one more lap of racing here. Clock has hit 0, but the +1 lap is still in effect. So the white flag waves. We've got 1 to go here. Maezawa makes his way past the lap traffic. Yasutaka Shirasaki remains in 3rd place, and the gap between Kenbo and Coldmax for the Trofeo Pirelli AM honours is about 0.8 of a second. You can see them in the back of shot here. Kenbo and Coldmax, the grey car followed by the red car. That is the Trofeo Pirelli AM lead, the 2 cars with the white banners on their windscreens. I'm not sure that Coldmax is going to get there unless Kembo puts a foot wrong somewhere. Half a second between them. It's going to take a bit of a wiggle or something from Kembo for Coldmax to get the run he needs. Zed Falcon and Katani still fighting it out for the Pirelli AM third place as well in 7th and 8th overall. But at the front of the field, Akihiro Suzuki has been building that gap over Yusaku Maezawa out over 3.5 seconds already. In these conditions, Akihiro Suzuki has been peerless. The only driver consistently under the 2-minute marker here at Mobility Resort Motegi in these conditions. A cut above the rest. So far, his result sheet for the season has read 3 wins, 2 DNFs. Well, the pattern of either winning or not finishing continues, but it's another one for the win column. Win number 4 of the season for Akihiro Suzuki. Within the Trofeo Pirelli class, it's his 3rd overall win of the year, but his 4th full haul of points within the Trofeo Pirelli division. Yasutaka Shirasaki crosses the line in 3rd, and Kembo takes it in Trofeo Pirelli AM for 4th overall. Coldmax follows him in 5th. In 6th position, it is Yamatatsu, and there was a late change on the final lap. Katani got to 3rd in Pirelli AM. You just see the red car across the line ahead of the black machine of Zed Falcon. Katani in the last lap of the race got himself the podium place in Trofeo Pirelli AM. That was your winning pair in Copa Shell, just crossing the line. Nato Ryu beating Alex Fox in that consideration. I think Fox was getting closer. And Yi Hang Tun will be next across the line to round out that Copa Shell podium. He's just done so. We're going to get a replay here. Is this... Oh, this is Alex Fox with a big lunge. And I'm not sure that was intended necessarily to be an overtaking attempt. It was contact between himself and Nato Ryu. The top 2 in Copa Shell almost didn't make it to the checkered flag. Nato Ryu held strong. Alex Fox did cross the line in 2nd, as we said. But that will have spiked a heartbeat or 2. Your overall winner then is Akihiro Suzuki. As we can see, the pro winner in Trofeo Pirelli. The driver from the Auto Speciale dealership, the 48-year-old racer, excels when the deft touch of a veteran is what's required. And that's what we got this time. Kenbo with a 2nd consecutive Pirelli AM win of the weekend. That is a huge boost for his title prospects. 2nd overall yesterday, 4th overall today. Of course, he was previously running in the Copa Shell division, and they bumped him up to Trofeo Pirelli AM, and, well, one can see why. The driving has been stellar. He's arrived into Trofeo Pirelli AM, and he's immediately taken 2 wins there. Nato Ryu, the winner in the Copa Shell class. There's an allegiance between Kenbo and Nato Ryu, of course. You can see the Nato Ryu sticker on Kenbo's car. And both parties have had very successful weekends. It was a Copa Shell podium yesterday for Nato Ryu, 3rd. And today he is our class winner. Akihiro Suzuki with his team. And a big smile under the helmet. That is a happy gentleman. We will hear from him, and I think possibly all three class winners with Kai Cozzolino in the next few minutes as we prepare for our podium celebrations. You see Yusaku Maezawa, second place in today's race, winner yesterday. I think he's going to be very pleased with his efforts and his return to Ferrari Challenge Japan. Hopefully we get to see more of him at the wheel of this car, the Ferrari 296 Challenge. Of course, based on the same production model as the 296 GT3, but the two cars drive very differently, both optimized in different ways. Of course, the 296 GT3 designed to thrive in the BOP balanced environment of GT3 racing has a lot less power in BOP trim than this 296 Challenge car. 296 Challenge car with 700 horsepower from its 3-litre dehybridized V6. Produces a lot of downforce in its own right, 870 kilos worth at 250 kilometers an hour. The GT3 has the edge when it comes to cornering and weight. We're going to go down, I think, now to Kai Cozzolino with our drivers, because that was our race winner Suzuki heading towards him.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the race winner and the overall winner of the Pirelli class, Akihiro Suzuki. 優勝です。おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
It was a very difficult race under the rain conditions. I know you were probably still confused whether to go on slick tires, wet tires. Ultimately, I think you went on wet tires and you made that fantastic overtake to Maezawa. How did you feel about doing that? さあ、かなり波乱万丈のレースで、スリックタイヤなのかウェット、最後まで多分判断難しかったと思いますけど、最後ウェットタイヤで行かれたと思いますが、素晴らしいオーバーテイクでしたね。
はい、ありがとうございます。昨日は赤旗中に止まっちゃってとても残念な結果だったんで、今日予選頑張ったんですけど、ちょっと車の調子がまだ悪い中で、逆に雨が降ってくれたおかげで、前に上がれることができたのかなと思います。昨日の鬱憤が晴らせたんで大変嬉しいです。ありがとうございました。
Yeah, so even yesterday I was almost able to win, but unfortunately I had a mechanical issue and I couldn't win the race. But today I wanted to have a revenge on that, and yeah, ultimately I was able to make that overtake. So thanks for cheering on. さあ、次戦、富士スピードウェイのレースとなりますが、ちょっと意気込みをお願いします。Your thoughts for the next race?
優勝目指して頑張ります。
Yeah, I'll go for the win. Congratulations, おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
In a few seconds, we'll hear from our Trofeo Pirelli AM winner, Kenbo. We'll leave the air open for Kai Cozzolino.
The race winner of the Pirelli AM class, Kenbo, 優勝おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
So ultimately, until mid-race, you were actually leading the whole race. You even overtook Maezawa-san, and it was a very difficult condition for you in the rain. さあ、雨の中、途中までなんと総合トップも走られて素晴らしいレースでしたが、最終的な2連勝となりました。
ありがとうございます。かなり雨難しかったです。
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, it was very difficult for me to drive in the rain. 結構レインの中でね、あまり練習ができない中、本当に素晴らしいレースだったと思います。2連勝となりました。次戦に向けての意気込みをお願いします。Two races in a win, he won. Thoughts for the next race for Fuji?
富士も走ったことたくさんあるので、頑張ります。
Yeah, Fuji is one of my favorite tracks, so I'll probably go for the win again. Thank you very much. おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
Next up,
And
Nata
lastly,
Ryu.
please welcome the race winner of the Shell category, Naoryu. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
おめでとうございます。So it was a very difficult race. Slick tires, wet tires. And you went for wet tires, right? 最後ね、ウェットタイヤを選ばれて、なんと前線のね、からの、2連勝目となりましたが、いかがですか？
そうですね、茂木もですね、岡山に続いて12年ぶりに走ったので、全然ちょっと変わってましたし、ウェットなんてましてむしろ初めてなんで、どこまでブレーキがいけるのかなってもう確認しながら、安全に行きました。
Funny enough, the last time I even raced in Motegi was 12 years ago, and I really didn't know where to put my wheels under these conditions. But yeah, I was being very, very cautious with the brake points, and then lastly, I was able to secure the victory. You had a collision at the last lap. You almost seemed like you lost it, but you were able to secure the win. 最終ラップですかね、90度コーナーで接触もありましたけど、スピンするかなって思いましたが、よくリカバリーできましたね。
そうですね、インガのバックミラーにロケット状態が見えたんで、これはやばいなと思ってこっちも覚悟して、はい、行ったんでスピンはしなかったです。
Yeah, I saw, Alex Fox coming on in the mirrors, and I was like, oh my, can I make it? But, I was aware that he was coming in. I was able to control the car. さあ、次戦、富士スピードウェイとなりますが、意気込みをお願いします。
そうですね、富士スピードウェイは、応援もたくさん来ると思うので、2レースとも表彰台立ちたいと思ってます。
おめでとうございます。Next race in Fuji will be his home race, so a lot of fans and his friends will be coming over to cheer him on. Here's Naoyu. Congratulations!
Okay, so home turf next up for Naoyu, the driver of the 110 car, the winner in Copa Shell. He will be a very happy driver indeed. The next step then is the step onto the podium. The drivers will make their way down there. I think it's the opposite end of the paddock here at Motegi, so it's a little bit of a trek, but they will make their way. And of course, the traditional champagne showers, the champagne fight, as our local announcer always calls it, which is a fabulous name for a podium ceremony. And we'll get the trophies, of course, to our drivers as well, all richly deserving of great results. Of course, we'll be staying live with you through a brief intermission after the podium ceremonies and a look at the race highlights and the results, as the Copa Shell AM division will be after that. Efficient work there to get the podium up and underway already, but they are ready to go down there. The Trofeo Pirelli drivers, of course, will be first up, and that will also represent our overall race top three as well. First man introduced onto the podium will be Yasutaka Shirasaki on his first weekend as a Trofeo Pirelli driver. There is Shirasaki. Getting better and better. We've seen that progression through the last two seasons of this championship, and once again, more of it coming in for 2026. Maezawa joins him on the second step of the podium, and here is your winner. Akihiro Suzuki to the top step. They will now welcome the Copa dealer representative, the representative from Suzuki's dealership, that being Auto Speciale. He now joins them, and we will observe the national anthem.
見事優勝、鈴木明宏選手、おめでとうございます。
Well, there we go. Round of applause to the top three, who will now receive their trophies. Yasutaka Shirasaki with the P3 trophy. Second position to Yusaku Maezawa. Maezawa, racing driver, of course, so famous here in Japan. Very well-known individual. Akihiro Suzuki has received his P1 trophy and the Copa Dealer trophy as well, going to the dealer representative. One more podium, one more trophy, I should say, to offer, and that will be the Pirelli trophy for our race winner, Akihiro Suzuki. His fourth of the season, of course. Again, he'd either won the Trofeo Pirelli class or not finish the race all year long. He can get some more wins and avoid the non-finish. That pattern will do just fine. They pose for their pictures. The next step is trophies down, bottles up, champagne shower for our top three. After a few more happy photos, all three parties, I think, very happy with how their weekend has gone. Suzuki will have been bitterly disappointed by yesterday's non-finish. But today, everything has been rectified, and what a drive he had from 8th to the win. And we begin the champagne shower. They don't need these race suits for a month or so. They can have a bit of fun. So the first of our three podiums complete. Trofeo Pirelli AM will join us next. The domain this weekend, of course, or for this race, of course, of Kenbo. He will be the winning driver, and Motegi Katani will be the first man onto the podium in third position after a late move on Zed Falcon. He came into the final lap fourth in the class, right behind Zed Falcon. We didn't see quite how that move was made, but based on the attempted overtakes we did see, I imagine that Katani was uncompromising in getting to that podium. And a real testament to his mentality that after a significant crash yesterday, he was well up for the fights and got himself onto the podium today. His car couldn't race today. He could, and he used the spare very effectively. Cold Max to the second step of the podium. And the top step filled out by Kenbo. The dealer representative for Corne Shiba joins them on the podium. It's the same gentleman who was on yesterday. Give someone else a turn.
見事優勝健坊選手おめでとうございます。それではトロフィーの贈呈に参りましょう。トロフィーピレリ山クラスの
Congratulations then to our top three. Time for their trophies. Katani and the Cornish Shiba representative having a little conversation, and Motegi Katani can take a lot of pride in getting himself back on the podium less than 24 hours after a really quite significant incident on the run down to turn 3. The 53-year-old racer has a lot of experience and is all too familiar with Ferrari Challenge racing. I'm sure that he's got a couple of surprises before the year ends. He's already taken a class win in Ferrari Challenge Japan this year at Suzuki. He was the Trofeo Pirelli AM winner in race number 2. Certainly we cannot rule him out of being in the championship contention by the end. Okayama wasn't the strongest of meetings for him, and indeed the DNF yesterday not ideal, but with 2 events and 4 races still left to run, a run of form from Katani could put him right up into contendership. The drivers then, pictures being taken. Kembo, Koldmax and Katani, all smiles. And now, the bit they all really want to do. Top 3 then in Trofeo Pirelli AM have taken to the podium. Next up, it's the top 3 in the Copa Shell division. The man we'll welcome onto that podium first is, of course, yesterday's winner, Yi-Hang Tun. Not quite able to perform the same feat today, but the driver representing the European version dealership will be 3rd. Alex Fox, of course, taking 2nd and having a go at taking the win on the final lap. We saw that collision between he and eventual winner Naorayu on the run down to turn number 11. Fox, last year's Copa Shell AM champion, becoming more and more of a threat in Copa Shell as well. 2nd best in this race. I don't think a first-class win in Copa Shell is too far away. The driver who has been part of Ferrari Challenge Japan since 2019. As for Naorayu, I'm sure that this won't be his last visit to the podium this season. He'd already got himself a class win this season at Okayama, 5th overall and 1st in Copa Shell in that race. And Naorayu for Cornish Shiba will be the driver on the top step, and a Cornish Shiba representative will join him. Here comes our Copa Shell top 3.
それでは3選手を表彰台にお迎えいたしますので、ぜひ大きな拍手をお願いいたします。まず第3位はカーナンバー103番ヨーロピアンバージョンイー・ヘンテン選手、おめでとうございます。Congratulations. The third place
Yi-Hang Tun takes to the 3rd step of the podium then. A double podium, a win and a P3. He's always keen to be at the top, so I don't know how pleasant a third place is, but I'm sure he'll be fighting for more wins as the season goes on. Alex Fox to the second step, the Frenchman. It's been great to have him as a full-time part of Ferrari Japan over the last couple of years. One of the more globe-trotting drivers in the category. Naorayu to the top step. And again, a second visit to the podium today for that particular Cornes Shiba representative. He must be friends with Naorayu and co. Let's hear the anthem. Alex Fox, Yi Hung-sun and Naorayu will now receive their trophies. Yi Hung-sun is the third place finisher, of course, claiming his first. Second step of the podium for Alex Fox, beaming today, happy man. And Naorayu, another triumph for him this season. That'll put him right into contendership in Copa Shell. I think we should have some updated points for you at the end of today's broadcast. At the end of this broadcast, we'll stay with you, of course, and then begin anew in about 15 or 20 minutes after this one ends with race 2 of the day, the Copa Shell AM division. We will be staying live, so make sure you keep with us for yet more Ferrari Challenge racing in about 35 minutes' time, but we should have a points update for Copa Shell. That's typically something that the TV crew does a great job of, totting up the points very quickly, quicker than I could, and telling us what is what. I think Alex Fox and Naorayu are going to be fighting for that title by the looks of the lay of the land, although Yi Hung-sun a threat as well, having moved up from Copa Shell AM following the Okayama round. And there's the champagne fight, and they're the only ones to have really abided by the champagne fight branding. They weren't aiming for anyone but each other. And these three are probably going to be the ones fighting for the championship. So I think that they're going to be aiming for each other on track, off track, until the title is decided at Suzuka. Well, with that, the podium ceremonies are completed. The celebrations will continue long into the evening, I'm sure, for all of those drivers. Of course, we're not done with on-track action. As we said, Copa Shell AM is coming up with their race, and I suspect that a few of these drivers will be watching with interest with that race, especially since it will be drying so long as we don't have more rain. And I really do think tyre choice might be tricky for everyone in the Copa Shell AM race. Would probably have dried out just enough that they can go for slicks and be competitive, but I don't know if it'll be a universal decision. It's going to be fun to watch. What was fun to watch was this race for Trofeo Pirelli AM and Copa Shell. Looking back at highlights now of what was a very fun race. We had a few laps under safety car to start, but when we did get going, Motegi Isosaki, slick tyres on his car. He fell through the field in a big way. Kid was also on slicks, and he found himself off the circuit after just one lap of action. Safety car out, and your race leader, Kembo, took the restart, but would soon come under pressure from Yusaku Maezawa, who took the race lead with a commanding move down at turn 5. Akihiro Suzuki was threading his way through the field. He started in 8th. This was him moving up to P3 overall at the expense of Shirasaki, and it didn't take long for Kenbo to watch the gold machine. How have I as well? And Suzuki, after 2 or 3 laps, was on the back of Maezawa, got a great run out of turn 14. The inside line beckoned for him, and a insurmountable race lead would be built from there. It was stellar driving from Akihiro Suzuki to get his 4th full points haul of the season in Trofeo Pirelli, continuing to mark himself as a championship contender here with results like these. And so now a look at the results for that race. Suzuki, your winner. Maezawa, Shirasaki, Yamatatsu, and Motohiko Isosaki, your top 5. Ika Isosaki will be very disappointed to have struggled in that race on the slick tyres. Was ultimately a lap down by the end of the race. In Trofeo Pirelli AM, it was, of course, a win for Kembo, who has been on great form here at Motegi. Cold Max, Katani, Zed Falcon, Phil Kim, your finishers. Unfortunately, Kid not taking the checkered flag on this occasion. He'll be hoping for better runs in Fuji next month. Copa Shell, Naorayu taking the win ahead of Alex Fox and Yi Hang Tun. Katsuya Hirata in 4th position. Liang Chenyu in P5, and Yukihisa Otsuki is 6th position. And with that, the action for those 3 divisions comes to an end, and this is what the championship battle looks like. Motohiko Isosaki still leads the points by just 1 over Yamatatsu. Shirasaki and Akihiro Suzuki all within 6 points of the lead. That is going to be a thrilling title fight that we're going to have the remainder of the season. Kenbo is dominating in Trofeo Pirelli AM, having been upgraded from Copa Shell. 29 clear of Cold Max, Zed Falcon, Phil Kim, Katani and Kid, your top 6 in those standings. And in Copa Shell, I think it will be Yi Hang Tun, is it? Yes, it is, by just 1 point over Naorayu. But very compelling title fight on there as well. Alex Fox 3rd in the points, Liang Chenyu, Katsuya Hirata, the remainder of your top 5. 10 points between those in the top 5. I think all of our titles are still certainly available, and at least 2 of those divisions are looking searingly close among our competitors. Great reason to tune in for the next 2 rounds at Fuji and Suzuka, as we're now into the second half of the season. What's going to happen for the rest of Ferrari Challenge Japan 2026 in these 3 divisions? Stay with us. Coming up next, the Copa Shell AM race at about 20 minutes from now. Welcome back to Motegi. We've got one more race to come today in Ferrari Challenge Japan, and it is the race for Copa Shell AM Honours. Always an interesting race to watch, with some of these drivers very new to motor racing, learning the ropes at speeds sometimes approaching 300 kilometers an hour. On this occasion, they've got an extra element to consider as well. It was wet earlier on for the Trofeo Pirelli AM and Copa Shell drivers. It's drying out on the circuit now. However, we are still expecting a little bit of treacherous conditions. You can see some patches of dampness still on the main straight. But by and large, it is dry. And you can see the slick tyres on the pole-sitting car. The start has been delayed by 10 minutes, according to live timing, which I think suggests to me that they want to just get the circuit as dry as possible before sending them out there on slicks, especially given this is the less experienced set of drivers. With this car pushing out 700 horsepower, certainly taking on a drying track on slicks is an immense challenge. So we will have a little bit of time here before this race gets underway. We should be seeing the green flag therefore at 6:40 as opposed to 6:30, or at least getting the cars rolling at 6:40 as opposed to 6:30. Let's get a look then at race one of the weekend, held on Saturday afternoon. And it was a fairly controlled race start for the drivers in this one. It was the second race of the day yesterday. In fact, no, it was the first race of the day yesterday. We had some really exciting fighting through the field. And a lot of battling for the lower positions as well. This was outside of the top 10, this scrap on screen. The 170 car of Tetsuya Matsumoto making up a position there further back in the field. There was a moment, unfortunately, for Asuki Ozaki. He ended up beached in the gravel at turn 14. That's where the safety car came in. The safety car would remain out there for a couple of laps. We would get back into racing conditions eventually, but it took a while. We had an additional incident as well for Kento Inami on the circuit. We got back underway with just one lap of racing left to go, and it was a slight mistake there from Katsuya Hirata that gifted the race lead to Yihang Tun. Tun would win his first race in Ferrari Challenge Japan in the Copa Shell AM division. And a big smile on his face in the celebrations thereafter. Happy days. Celebration sprays. And indeed, we try and do it all again now on Sunday. The 154 car that you see down there, that is Koji Yamamoto. In fact, Yamamoto, who came 8th yesterday, the 154 car, will be looking for a better performance today if he possibly can, but a long way to go. Now this is race 2 of the weekend for the Shell AM division. And let's get a look at the grid. Of course, my apologies. I was looking at a false sheet, actually, with as it pertained to race results while going over those highlights, because it was Yamamoto who took the win yesterday. I was admittedly looking at something from Okayama that I'd been looking at previously. It was Yamamoto, Inami and Bamboo Maeda, your top three yesterday. Indeed, it was Inami who made the error on the final lap to lose the lead. So he, from pole position, will be looking not to repeat that in today's race. Bamboo Maeda, he was also very competitive yesterday. Could he claim a win in his first season of Ferrari Challenge Japan? I've been informed that when we do go racing at 40 minutes past 22 the hour, we are going to be having just the one formation lap. There was talk of doing 2 or 3 formation laps to make sure that everyone was up to speed. And in fact, I think we are going to go with 2 just because there are still some damp patches. I think race control's still debating this, but it does sound like we'll do 2 formation laps, and that is the latest bulletin from race control. So 2 formation laps it is. And the first one will be not part of the race, but the race time will start ticking once they cross the line at the end of the first formation lap. There's the spectacularly liveried car of our third place starter, Jay. Jay, who seems like a very fun personality, has been enjoying his time so far in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Could he challenge for a first win? I think it would also be a first visit to the podium if he can achieve it. Just taking a look at his results. Yes, I think it would be. I think potentially he's had a class podium before, but that was at Suzuki, where there is not a Copa Shell AM podium, at least a formal broadcast ceremony. So it would be our first opportunity to see him on the podium at the very least. He got a 4th and a 6th in the standalone Copa Shell AM races in Okayama. So this car, the Ferrari 296 Challenge machine, has been active now for 3 seasons and was introduced to Ferrari Japan for 2025. It was in Europe and North America in 2024. And this car has been very well received by parties throughout the Ferrari Challenge racing family. Have spoken to a few of the Japan drivers about the cars, and indeed a lot of the Ferrari Challenge UK and Europe drivers about the cars. And they really do love the performance of this machine. I was speaking actually to Chris Bayton, who's debuting in Ferrari Challenge UK this year, about the car. And he said it's so different from a lot of what he's done in historic racing, just because you've got to push it. If you're not giving it 10 tenths, you're just not getting the most out of the car. And finding that limit is very difficult in this machine. Yasuhito Fukui in the 101. He lines up 6th on the grid. We've seen him getting himself limbered up and prepared to go racing. So the drivers watching on with interest. I think they'll all be pretty relieved that this race started now rather than, say, 30 or 40 minutes ago, where really it would have been a toss-up between slicks or wets. It was certainly wet weather tyres in the previous race. And that is the best decoration I've seen on a helmet in quite some time. Shuichi Koga with what I'm sure is his dog and not just a random dog on the helmet. Tak Shaw starting this one from P8, the Cornez Shiba driver. Starting from 8th on the grid, can see him fully focused, ready to go. Tackshaw, who didn't have the best of qualifying twos by his standards, I would say. In the race yesterday, it was Koji Yamamoto who won, Inami Bamboo Maeda third, and Tackshaw in 4th place. So he's got some work to do from 8th on the grid to try and match that. Of course, 8th on the grid was our winning position ultimately in the previous race in Trofeo Pirelli. Yamato Yamaguchi for the ideal dealership, starting from P9. He was 10th in yesterday's race at the checkered flag. He's got an animal mascot as well. Alex Fox has his fox. Shuichi Koga has his dog, and we now have a bear on the 144 car. Yesterday's winner, Koji Yamamoto. This feels like a big story that he is starting in 10th position. I think we can expect that 154 to move through the field. He looks ready to go. It was a first win in Ferrari Challenge for Yamamoto yesterday. His best finish prior was a 5th place in Okayama. In the overall standings, at least. He had a solid run at Suzuki, got a top 10 overall up against the Trofeo Pirelli drivers, the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers and the Copa Shell drivers. Zed Falcon claimed the wins at Copa Shell AM in that race before he was promoted. There's your track, 14 corners at the mobility resort Motegi. And a little bit of deceptive elevation change. It goes uphill quite steadily from turn 5 through to turn 10. And then you see that descent down into turn 11, which is one of the most important braking zones. Of course, the circuit formerly known as the Twin Ring Motegi, owing to the oval circuit that this track drives underneath, those bridges in place to support the oval. However, the oval is now, after being damaged in the earthquakes of 2011, is now being converted into spectator areas, natural grassy banked spectator areas, highly raised ones, which I think will be a really nice and unique feature for the fans. It is a little sad to see the end of the oval, which had so many exciting moments on it in IndyCar racing and some NASCAR Japan non-championship events, and even the former Japanese GT Championship, in which some Ferraris would have been taking to the oval back in the 90s. But now, all eyes focus on the road course, where very soon we will be going racing. 1 minute until the safety car leads them away. 2 formation laps expected per race control, and the Ferrari 849 Testarossa will lead the field around the circuit. You see the field there. I think everybody will have gone for slicks, surely. There are very few damp patches left around this circuit, and as we can see, everybody has met the moment with their tyre choice. Some gorgeous liveries in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Lots of very colourful wraps on the cars. And we will now follow the pace car around for 2 laps. After the first lap, the race will formally begin. Getting confirmation that the whole grid is on slick tyres, as one would anticipate. So they will now be exploring taking a look, maybe trying to figure out if there are some damp patches on the inside of some of these corners, and just making sure they know where to put the car and where not to on these formation laps. Kento Inami and Bamboo Maeda then are front row of the grid. You can see there a big gap between them in qualifying as well. Jay in third place, Michito Hirota in fourth position. Yoshifumi Komatsu in fifth place, and Yasuhito Fukui in P6. Shuichi Koga with a starting position of 7th. He is joined by Takshaw on row 4. Yamaguchi in 9th. He is joined by Yamamoto in P10. Michael Ung in 11th place. Tetsuo Matsumoto in P12. 13th and 14th for Leon Hinglun Rudolph and Hirotaka Nishida in 14th position. And then at the rear of the field, it'd be John Leo and Asuki Ozaki, who yesterday ended his race in the gravel. He'll be hoping to see the checkered flag this time. So then our safety car leads us around for the first of 2 laps, and the timer will start ticking down in just a few moments when they cross the start-finish line on the main pit straight. We're currently going down the secondary pit straight here at Mobility Resort Motegi. Home, of course, to the Japanese Motorcycle Grand Prix, and a new addition for this year to Ferrari Challenge Japan. It's delivered us some great racing. And we don't have to wait much longer to get some more great racing here at Motegi. Just a few more moments, one more lap until the safety car releases the field. The clock has started ticking down as anticipated. So Kento Inami leading the field around. He will assume control of the field as we go on to lap number 2. Inami, Maeda, Jay, Hirota, Komatsu will be the order as they get themselves underway in a 2x2 formation at the start of the race. Keep an eye on Koji Yamamoto's 154, the black car with the yellow stripe that you see in the back of shot. That car should come through the field. Yesterday's winner, he seems to enjoy it here at Motegi. He would love to get 2 Copa Shell AM wins in the same weekend, having claimed his first just 24 hours ago, but starting in 10th place, it's a mighty steep hill that he has to climb. Takshaw as well from 8th in the black and red car. He will be one to watch. Representing the Cornez Shiba dealership, of which there are no fewer than 6 Cornez Shiba representatives on this grid. Of course, the Copa dealer standings also a factor across all 4 divisions. The drivers contribute to their points score for the team or for the dealership. And of course, there's nothing that the drivers want more than the ability to show off their trophy at home and indeed in front of their friends at the Ferrari dealership they frequent. You've got 4 dealerships represented in the top 4, 5 represented in the top 5. Yanase Fiorano's, Inami, Cornez Shiba's, Bamboo Maeda, Rossa Scuderia have J in 3rd place, Gran Testa Nagano in 4th position with Michito Hirota, And Komatsu in 5th place. He's a Nicole Competizione representative. So they're in 2x2 formation. We will be releasing these cars into racing action. Inami takes control of the field, 2x2 formation. And we are about to go racing. The red lights will be lit up on the gantry as soon as they are off. Freedom is yours to accelerate. Will it be Maeda? Will it be Inami? Will it be someone from further back who gets the jump? We've seen some surprisingly strong launches at times this weekend. The lights go out, we are underway, and it's a good start from Inami from pole position. Maeda, I think, may lose out to Jay as they head through turn 1. Jay has the inside line, and he does get through into 2nd place, only briefly though, because Maeda is still with him. And yesterday's winner, Yamamoto, in a spin. Oh, Koji Yamamoto. Oh, he's got himself looped around on the grass in the back of shot as well, the wet grass. It's not gone well for him off the start of this race. Bamboo Maeda in 2nd. He's got himself back past Jay. They were side by side on the run to turn 3. It's Komatsu who's got himself into 4th position. Yoshifumi Komatsu in the 1-2-3 car in P4. Ahead of Fukui. Koga Takshaw to 7th place. He's gained a position off the start. But not a good start for Koji Yamamoto. Very much a 0-0 situation. Yesterday's winner. But he's got time to try and salvage back some points in this race, but it's going to be a lot of work. Big late braking from Jay. In 3rd position, he's looking racy today. He would certainly be keen to get himself an even better result than we've already seen this year. The Copa Shell AM driver in his 1st season in the category. His first full season since he debuted last year in the Ferrari 488 class at Fuji Speedway. It was only a one-off appearance though. This year he's committed fully, and he's fully committed to the outside at turn 1. Not quite though able to carry the corner speed. I think now that we're in the dry conditions, any move attempted around the outside is going to be a low percentage one. And sure enough, he's now under fire from Komatsu, who has a bold lunge to the inside line. Can't quite make it work. Fukui and Koga side by side as well. And that's Koga on the inside line. He's got a nose ahead for 5th place, but I think Fukui, with a better run out of the corner, should have the advantage now as they approach turn 5. Indeed, it is just about the 101 car that remains in 5th place of Fukui, who we're a bit more familiar with, of course. Yasuhito Fukui debuted in Ferrari Challenge last year, was a race winner in Copa Shell AM last year. Before that, he's raced elsewhere in the GT racing sphere. So one of the more seasoned drivers in Copa Shell AM, and a move there. Past the 116 goes Rudolph, the Australian flag driver. Chito Hirota dropping down a position as a result of that. That's Rudolph up into 9th place. He seems to be charging in this one. Look to the inside there from Matsumoto in 8th position. Takshaw just ahead of him in 7th. Not really made any further progress since gaining that position off the first few corners. Koji Yamamoto, incidentally, did cross the line to complete the first lap of the race, and he is just on the back of the pack, actually, so he will soon be picking off some places, but anything above potentially a top 10 now out of reach for yesterday's winner. Inami, 0.6 clear at the line at the front of the field. Bamboo Maeda under scrutiny from Jay. Maeda in the 159. Second place finish here, if he can hold on to it, would be his high watermark so far in his Ferrari Challenge Japan tenure. But he's got some work to do, certainly, to defend from Jay, who's looking more and more racy. Worth noting that, unfortunately, we haven't seen Pakho Parkol Ching today. Of course, he was in a big accident yesterday, and he wasn't in the Copa Shell standings in the previous race. So one of our newcomers that we didn't see, unfortunately. I'm sure we'll see more of him in the Copa Shell division. Focusing now on Copa Shell AM. And Inami just building out that gap. It was just under a second last time by. I think with Maeda and Jay scrapping, it's gone up. Indeed, it's almost doubled, 1.7 seconds between them. Maeda is doing a favor here to Inami. You can see that pack behind him getting longer and longer. Maeda is in quite the hot seat right now. Koga again to the inside of Fukui and a big lunge. Is he going to get the car rotated for turn 2? Yes, he does. And that is 5th place for Shuichi Koga. That was a very impressive move for the driver representing the Ideal dealership. It's his first race of the season this weekend. He debuted on a one-off basis last year at Fuji. I think he's done a little bit of track time since then in these 296 Challenge cars. He's come back looking very competitive. Indeed, I don't think it's going to be too long before he's trying to find a way around Komatsu for P4. Koga there, the red and yellow detailed car, following the white striped machine of Komatsu. Coming into this weekend, the Copa Shell AM standings looked radically different, courtesy of drivers like Yi Hang Tun, who were dominating the class. They've now been pushed up into Copa Shell. Therefore, the championship standings will look dramatically different coming out of this weekend. Of the drivers still in Copa Shell AM after some shifting around, it is Jay and Yamamoto among those at the front, and with Yamamoto of course down in 15th place after that spin, Jay could well find himself leading the championship after this race. Although Inami will be right up there as well, given that he was a podium finisher, 2nd place yesterday. Getting a look back at this now. The race starts, and it was a very good launch from Kento Inami. Jay almost made it to 2nd place, and you can see there Yamamoto was wide around turn 1 and 2, and then just tried to carry too much speed on the turn 2 exit, cost himself a lot of time with that spin. But he's now charging back through. He's already made up a position. He's got himself around Asuki Ozaki for 15th place. And then you just saw there that he also rotated it on the grass after that. And oh, we've had a spin as we come back to live pictures. That was Fukui. Oh, sorry, no, that was Komatsu in the 1-2-3 car. No, it was Fukui. I was right the first time. I should trust myself more, but he's managed to get himself through the gravel. I wouldn't have trusted myself not to get the car dug into the gravel, but Fukui, with a deft touch on the throttle there, has managed to keep the car rolling. And the 196 of Tackshaw, missing its front, well, not bonnet, with no engine underneath it, but the car is missing that panel. And that is probably going to be a visit to pit lane. Doesn't look like the car's damaged otherwise. I don't know if there wasn't a collision that I saw between the two in that spin. And there is the errant bodywork. Now that's going to need to be picked up, isn't it, probably? We'll see if they do that under local yellows. If a brave marshal can vault the Armco and get that out of harm's way. So Tackshaw falling through the field. And a spin for Fukui. Tackshaw has indeed come into the pits. Fukui has crossed the line down in 14th place. In a dramatic first few laps of this race. Again, otherwise that car doesn't look at all damaged. The 196. We'll see if Tackshaw can rejoin the race, but it's Inami that leads. And of course, Inami in yesterday's race had this exact same situation. He led every single lap of the race, and then he ran it wide, coming through turn 1 off the safety car restart at the end of the race. There was just one more lap of racing when the safety car peeled in. Unfortunately, Inami at turns 1 and 2 went wide and cost himself the race victory. And we are seeing him lead away again. Can he this time convert it into a victory? Behind him, it seems that Bamboo Maeda is starting to pick up the pace. He's certainly left Jay over the last 2 or 3 laps. Jay has found himself not quite able to match the increased pace of Bamboo Maeda, who just set a personal best final sector. There's Koji Yamamoto steadily making his way through the field. He's on the verge of getting himself towards the top 10 here. He's up to P11 already, having just gotten around John Leo there for 11th place. So he could well salvage himself some points here as he continues his charge up the field. In the Ferrari Challenge Japan point system, the points go 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 and 1 down to 8th place. Therefore, he has to get himself up into the top 8. So he's got some work to do to get there. But I think it's work that he's able to achieve. He's got himself about 10 seconds of clear air before he catches Yamaguchi, and then he's really in the main pack, as it were. That is going to be a steep up task, but he's got a bit of time to do it. He is the fastest driver on track. His last lap was best of the race, a 52.714. He will be kicking himself that he made that error. Otherwise, he could be knocking on the door of a podium, even from starting 10th on the grid. So it's Inami, Maeda and Jay, your top 3. And Jay under Not yet pressure necessarily from Komatsu, but Komatsu has been lurking about a second behind for several laps at this point, and Shuichi Koga is right there with Komatsu. Koga, who I think has potentially got another overtake or two in him. We've seen some great moves so far. Can he maybe get himself onto the Shell AM podium? Watch on as Koga studies the rear of Komatsu. He was 0.3 quicker on the previous lap, as you see there on the timing tower, so his pace points towards being able to challenge. In fact, the only driver in the top 5 who's been quicker over 1 lap than Koga in this race is the leader, Inami. So he has superior pace to a lot of those around him. Good battle pack as well, a little further down. I believe that's Matsumoto leading the charge in this battle. See there at the... see drivers there using a little bit of that runoff on the under the bridge to try and straighten out that turn 12 and 13 section just a little bit. At the back of that queue, it's Yamaguchi in P10. He's having a look to the inside there of just ahead of him. It's Rudolph actually leading this pack in the 138 car, so there's Matsumoto a few seconds up the road from them. Then Rudolph here in 7th place, leading a 4-car train with Michito Hirota just behind him. Rudolph has made his way up to P7. Of course, we saw him fighting his way into the top 10 earlier on, and he's made up more positions since then to now be in 7th place, but he's not really been able to drop any of the cars he's overtaken, unfortunately, and he's got a rear view mirror full of 296s. The 168 of there, just sizing up Hirota for a potential look for P8 here. I thought for a moment he was going to dive to the inside there at turn 9, but he's waiting for a better opportunity. Can he get himself a good run maybe here out of turn 10? He had to slightly slow himself down there on the apex of the corner, I think, to avoid the rear of So the Hong Kong-based driver remains ahead. Sorry, had to cost himself a little time avoiding the back of Hirota, I should say. That's in the gold and black car. Not a livery too dissimilar from the Auto Speciale vehicle we saw win the previous race in the hands of Akihiro Suzuki, actually. Although represents the Nicole Competizione dealership, so no dealership connection to those colours, just a similar taste in palette. As has another look to the inside there at turn 2. Hirota cannot get it, or just about holds on for now. Hasn't gotten close enough really to make a high percentage attempt at the position just yet. We've got just over 8 minutes of this race left to go. When the clock hits 0, we'll be on the penultimate lap of the race. Ooh, and there, I think realising that he shouldn't stray off onto the paint and the curbing, because that will still be quite slippery given the earlier rainfall. And you saw him there do quite an unnatural move, as I think he just hit the brakes and realised he cannot use all of that curbing. At least not particularly effectively or safely. with the rainfall having been so recent and there still being some damp patches on the tarmac as well. Oh, and there's been a spin for Koga. Shuichi Koga recovering from a spin there. And remains on the grass. Is that car okay? That's Yamamoto driving past him. Yamamoto, therefore, is up into 10th place, but Shuichi Koga, who looked like he had pace to even challenge for a podium, he was in 5th. He's had a spin there. Now, I didn't see if Komatsu was involved in that. It doesn't look like either car is damaged. I think potentially Koga was trying to get a good run out of turn 10 for a challenge at turn 11, and unfortunately it ended in a loop. We've got Bamboo Maeda and Jay running well together in 2nd and 3rd place. Yellow flags around the circuit, or at least down at turn 13, and that's the 119 car recovering from a moment on track, just rejoining ahead there of Osaki. That is Hirotaka Nishida in the 119. With him getting back on the straight and narrow, no harm, no foul, he continues on in 14th place. Indeed, didn't lose any positions as a result of that spin either. He's actually lost out there to Ozaki for 14th place. That's happened around the first couple of corners. Are we going to get a look at what happened there? And we're getting a look at the initial spin where I think, again, just using that painted surface, maybe just still a little bit of dampness to be found there. And the 119 sent into a spin. Nishida now behind Ozaki in 14th and 15th places. The last two cars still running with Takshaw confined to the pit lane. We rejoin the battling further up. Bamboo Maeda strays wide, and that's the opportunity Jay needs. Jay with a better run out of the corner for my money, but inside line for Bamboo Maeda going into turn 3. And Maeda holds on for now. But Jay, for a couple of laps now, has looked particularly threatening in the first couple of turns of the lap. Fighting for 2nd overall here, of course, home free at the front of the field is our race leader, Kento Inami, looking to make good after losing his win on the final lap yesterday. And right now, just charging away in the 137. Bamboo Maeda has had rearview mirrors full of Jay for a majority of this race. He built a gap briefly after the first 3 or 4 laps, but that's now ebbed down. I wonder if Jay maybe did a little bit more aggressive tyre conservation. Of course, these tyres will comfortably last 30 minutes. The Pirelli P0 tyre will do double that and quite a bit more, but if you can save some of that early grip, that almost qualifying grip that you get in the first laps of a tyre for later in the race, that only benefits you in the late minutes, and I think that's what Jay may have done, looking to the inside line, but not quite close enough. Maeda holding on, but Jay's looking ever more racy and ever less patient. He's going to have 3 more laps of racing by my count to try and get around Maeda. Of course, he'll be conscious of the fact that Komatsu is there as well, just waiting for an opportunity to either get involved in the battle or scythe past both cars. Maeda leaves the door slightly temptingly open there for Jay at turn 2, and that's always what seems to happen, that Maeda drifts it out a little bit more wide between turns 1 and 2, and Jay tries to get to the inside, but so far all attempts have been in vain. Jay to the inside again here at turn 5. That looks like it's on. Side by side as they approach the apex. Maybe the slightest glancing blow between them, but Jay gets through into second position. Got a great run out of 4. Was finally able to commit to late braking, and that's a collision. That looks to be Hirota and Ung who have had a coming together there. Ung in the 168, just behind your timing tower, is it? No, that's Yamamoto. Oh, Koji Yamamoto. He's been trying his best to work his way through the field. The safety car has been scrambled. Now, who was Yamamoto directly behind? He was directly behind Hirota. Yes, it was Hirota with him. I thought it would be the 168 car that had been involved in that, because Ung and Hirota were racing previously, of course. We saw that. We're going to get a replay here. Oh, and Yamamoto was entirely too bold on the brakes there. He fired past Ung in the 168, unfortunately. Collected the 116 car of Hirota, just slightly too brave on the braking, misjudged it. And both cars stranded, and with that, the safety car will preside over proceedings from here. There has been a switch for second place. Jay is now shown as second position on the timing screen. Now, when did that happen? And critically, what flags were being shown when it happened, if any? We didn't see that one happen on screen, as to my recollection. Maeda was still ahead of Jay when we saw the collision between the Yamamoto and Hirota cars. And now Jay is up to P2. It'd be very interesting if we can see that overtake. But Inami has gotten the better of Jay. Or rather, sorry, Jay has got the better of Bamboo Maeda, I should say. And we are going to get a look here at the move. Of course, yes, we did see this move in the live pictures. My apologies. We did see Jay get past Bamboo Maeda. For a moment, I thought we'd missed that, but no, we did see the move down at turn 5, and then a few moments later, Yamamoto was even braver under braking at the same corner. Unfortunately, he was too brave. And I'm sure he will be very apologetic to Machito Hirota. He had absolutely nowhere to go, Hirota, as the 154 car came barreling into the corner. It was a safety car restart that unfortunately snatched the victory away from Kento Inami yesterday. He was a bit too quick into turn 1 and 2 after a safety car restart, and that cost him the win. On this occasion, though, he won't have to worry about the restart. The safety car has come out extremely late in the race. The clock has hit 0. We've still got the +1 lap to do. So just one more lap of this race officially left, and it will conclude under safety car. Inami, Jay and Bamboo Maeda set to stand on the podium. Be delighted with that, I'm quite certain. Jay will have his best result so far in Ferrari Challenge Japan, as will Bamboo Maeda, as a matter of fact. Indeed, would this be a first win for Inami as well? Yes, it would. So all three parties on the podium will be celebrating their best ever result in Ferrari Challenge Japan. For Inami, it's his first season of racing in the series, and he hadn't done terribly much beforehand. You see there Hirota and Yamamoto. Good to see they're both okay. I'm sure that already Yamamoto has said his apologies. He'd been charging wonderfully through the field after that first corner spin. Unfortunately, just asked too much of the brakes going into turn 5, but he'll come back to try again next time out at Fuji. Of course, he won yesterday's race. A non-finish today, not ideal for him and any prospects of a championship. But for Kento Inami, this feels like the weekend where he really has arrived here in the Copa Shell AM division of Ferrari Challenge Japan. He was second place yesterday after leading much of the race distance. And that second place finish worth 12 points, more than doubled his points haul for the rest of the season so far. Today, he's going to claim his inaugural race victory in Ferrari Challenge Japan. So the 137 Inami will now assume lead of the field, and he will see the checkered flag as the race winner for the first time in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Kento Inami will have a P1 trophy to his name. Jay and Bamboo Maeda join him on the podium. Looked like there was a late change there. Michael Ung on the main straight past Rudolph. That will not stand. The intention of the safety car pulling in is simply to allow them to cross the line unimpeded, but you're still not meant to make an overtake before you get to the start-finish line. So that will be switched back, I'm sure. But it'll be celebrations for this man, Kento Inami. A first-time race winner in this category, and with it, he will be quite a way up the overall point standings as well. We'll get a breakdown of where the points stand after the podium ceremonies here. I believe that Jay should be our championship leader. Koji Yamamoto will be up there as well. However, it'll be fairly close between him and Inami for second place, actually. Yamamoto and Inami should be second and third in the standings. But I believe it will be Jay, our championship leader. Through consistent, strong finishes. Yesterday he was 5th position, today he's 2nd place. Always lovely to see a top 3, all of whom will be thrilled. And with everyone in that top 3 getting a personal best finish, that's exactly what we're going to have. The overtaking under a safety car being investigated, so Michael Ung's pass there at the end of the race has been noted. So that's 6th place for the Hong Kong driver. Unlikely to stand Our leaders then head back into the pit lane. They'll make their way to the back of the paddock to park the cars at the P1, 2 and 3 positions, and then our race winner, Inami, will be able to talk to Kai Cozzolino, who will be there to chat with our drivers. Cozzolino, of course, hugely experienced racing driver. For many years has represented the Prancing Horse brand at events up to and including the Le Mans 24 Hours. He's a great driver and seamlessly bilingual as well, as he's been showing off to us in the broadcast for the last couple of rounds. Always so many immense talents in the paddock coaching these drivers so they can have moments like this. The delight is plain to see for Kento Inami. He was disappointed to make that error on the last lap and cost himself a win on Saturday, but today it was a seamless, flawless performance, lights to flag glory for Kento Inami in the Inase Fiorano Motegi dealership. Motohiko Isasaki greets him, passes on his congratulations. Our current Trofeo Pirelli class leader, Alex Fox, comes to say hello and congratulations as well. The close-knit nature of this paddock is plain to see. Of course, Alex Fox also races under the Inase Fiorano banner. I think after yesterday's disappointment as well, he'll have been beating himself up over that. And so they're very happy, I think, as a community here in the paddock to just see him smiling and getting some redemption and retribution after missing out on the win yesterday. Nice to see so many of the drivers from the leading classes there. Yasutaka Shirasaki, Motohiko Isasaki among those congratulating our drivers from the Copa Shell AM division. And Kai Cozzolino will be waiting with bated breath to give us insights from Kento Inami, who should be making his way
Ladies and gentlemen,
to
please
the
welcome the
pen
race
now.
winner of the Ferrari Challenge Japan 2026 Round 3 Motegi Shell AM category, Kento Inami. Congratulations, 優勝おめでとうございます。
ありがとうございます。めっちゃ嬉しいです。
Yeah, yesterday, well, you were leading the race until the last lap. At a safety car restart, you had a little bit of a moment and you lost the victory, and finally you did it for today's race too. 昨日はセーフティーカー明けでね、最終ラップまでトップを走られていて、ちょっと1コーナーでちょっとランオフしてしまいまして、惜しくもね優勝はできなかったんですけど、やりましたね、いよいよレース2で。
本当に優勝できて本当に嬉しいです。昨日はちょっとSC リスタートでミスってやっちゃったんで、今日絶対勝ちたいと思ってやったんで、ずっとペースも良くて、で最後運よく勝てました。本当に嬉しいです。
Yeah, I'm super happy to have won this race. I mean, yesterday I was really angry at myself for losing it at turn 1, and I knew I had the pace, but this race I kept focused. I had a good pace all throughout, was able to maintain a distance and able to secure this victory. So Kento-san, next race will be in Fuji Speedway, probably one of your favorite tracks. I think it's your home race. Please tell me what are your plans for the next race. さあ次のラウンド4の富士のレースに向けての意気込み、プランをお聞かせください。
富士はとりあえずグランツで来月ちょっと1回走ってちょっと練習しようと思います。
Yeah, thank you. For the next round, I will be using another race car to practice and try to go for the victory. 改めましておめでとうございました。Congratulations.
ありがとうございます。
Back to you.
That's a relieved and happy man, Kento Inami. With that race win now in the books, and alluded there to getting some practice in, as a lot of these drivers do. They try and get every bit of mileage they can, especially those who are becoming championship contenders. Of course, 2 incredible circuits left to go on the calendar. Fuji Speedway, former home, of course, of the Japanese Grand Prix, one of the premier destinations in motorsport in the Asian region. And then, of course, the current and, shall we say, spiritual home as well of the Japanese Grand Prix, that being Suzuka for the finale in the first, at the last weekend of July. Fuji Speedway will be 27th and 28th of June when we go racing there. Once again, we'll be splitting the grid between Copa Shell with their own standalone race and the top three divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan, Trofeo Pirelli AM, and Copa Shell. Usually get a few guest entries at Fuji as well. It seems to be a circuit a lot of people want to drive at. Of course, that huge kilometre-plus main straight, a big pull as well. The cars knocking on the door of 300 kilometres an hour, 180-plus miles an hour. Time now then for the Copa Shell AM Podium. We'll also see the gentleman class winner join them for this one.
それでは3選手表彰台にお迎えしますので、ぜひ皆さん大きな拍手をお迎えください。見事第3位はカーナンバー159番コーンズ芝バンブー前田選手。おめでとうございます。
Bamboo Maeda takes the third step of the podium. His first time stood on a podium here in Ferrari Challenge Japan. Jay, who by my reckoning is the current leader of the championship, second position for the racing rock star. Kento Inami to the top step for Yasane Fiorano Moturi. There will of course be a representative from that dealership as well. We welcome the representative from the dealership, Yasane Motor Fiorani, to the podium. And Tetsuo Matsumoto joining them as the gentleman class winner for the over 60 drivers. Tetsuo Matsumoto taking that. We're now going to hear the Japanese national anthem. The first win, always a big moment for a driver, and Kento Inami has achieved that and will be in title contention for the remaining 4 races of the season. Here are the trophies then. Bamboo Maeda taking the third step. In fact, there's been a change on the timing screen to that end. We'll cover that in a second, but Inami claiming his winning trophy. I believe that's actually Komatsu, third on the podium there, because Maeda has dropped down to 4th on my timing screen. Or is that because Komatsu overtook under safety car and they've taken him off? Our podium drivers pose for the picture. And it is celebrations all round. That is Bamboo Maeda there in 3rd position, so I think Komatsu has maybe been pinged for overtaking under the safety car at the end of the race there, because Maeda definitely up there celebrating 3rd position. We can see that. The drivers celebrating in a big way. I think Jay is trying to make a J, but that was an L. He didn't take any L's this weekend, though. Trophies down, bottles up. Let's celebrate with some champagne. Inami got the brunt of that, didn't he? Well-deserved champagne shower after a commanding victory in that race. Jay and Bamboo Maeda celebrate on the podium. And they take their trophies. And now we'll, I'm sure, celebrate with their teams. A strong day of racing. And with that, we can take a look back at the highlights from race number 2 for the Copa Shell AM division in Ferrari Challenge Japan. A very exciting half hour of action. Inami, though, controlled it from the front. The recovery vehicles, the clean-up vehicles out there on the circuit after the race. Let's look at the race that was. It was Keto Inami from pole position with a good start. Bamboo Maeda and Jay side by side for 2nd place. And Jay would try so many times to get to the inside at turns 1 and 2. They'd be side by side through that corner very often indeed. Spin for Koji Yamamoto coming through the first turns. Yesterday's winner would have to work his way up from the rear of the field. Tackshaw in the 196 lost his bonnet and unfortunately would return and retire to the pits. Meanwhile, Maeda, after a lot of defensive driving up against Jay, would run out of opportunity to keep the 1-2-8 car at bay. Jay would move up into 2nd with a nice dive at turn 5. Unfortunately, there was a collision between Hirota and Yamamoto that brought out the safety car just a few laps from home. But Inami didn't mind cruising to victory after a stellar performance. A 2nd place and a win this weekend. That's a big deal for him. Jay taking 2nd and 3rd across the line technically there as the safety car peeled in was Komatsu, but Bamboo Maeda in corrected times will be 3rd, of course, in the race standings. And so the teams now begin the process of packing these cars away for their next destination, Fuji Speedway, from the 26th until the 28th of June. 3 days of action there. We do highly suggest you join us for that one if you are lucky enough to be in the Fuji region. And then, of course, Suzuka, the grand finale of the year, with the Ferrari Racing Days alongside. I think we're going to get a look now at some provisional standings, hopefully, along with some results of that race to conclude the day's broadcast. It has been a stellar performance from the Copa Shell AM drivers. It's really good to separate the two segments of Ferrari Challenge Japan. It allows us to really focus in on the Copa Shell AM battles, which are often some of the most riveting out there on the circuit. And this year, with the races split away, we have that opportunity to really take in the excitement of the Copa Shell AM division. With that, we bid you farewell from the Motegi Mobility Resort. Great racing from Copa Shell AM, and before that, the other 3 divisions of Ferrari Challenge Japan as well. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope we'll see you again for Fuji from June 26th until June 28th.